NTB, man. So sometimes people bring you to court not to settle a real bona fide grievance. Sometimes they bring you to court to destroy you. They want to use the court to punish you, to beat you to a pulp, to have you totally destroyed. And if you don't understand that going in, then you in for a rude awakening. You better understand what's going on in these courts. Avoid the courts, man. All right, NTB, man. So, one of the things I learned pretty early in practicing law is that when a client comes to you, or a potential client comes to you, and their case is headed to court, or litigation is impending, then you have to not just understand the case, the law, the particulars. You also have to understand the psychology of things. It's critical because if you don't understand the psychology and all you're doing is trying to figure out the law, then you're making a big mistake, because quite often while you're studying the law, preparing for one avenue of offense and defense, your client is sitting there hoping for a totally different affair. They're actually looking for something else. And if you're not keen and you're not flushing this out, there's going to be a disconnect. No matter how successful you think you are in the case, how much ground you're making or how much ground you've made, your client is always going to be looking at you with a squinted eye. And if you don't understand what this squinted eye is about, where is it coming from, you are setting yourself up for disappointment at the end. A client who's potentially not happy or not thrilled with all that you've done, and you may be looking like this is an ungrateful client. No, it's not necessarily you have an ungrateful client. You did what you thought you were supposed to do, but you didn't do what your client really wanted you to do. There's a difference. Sometimes if you don't really pry deep and find out what the client really wants, what will be your ideal outcome? And if you don't know how to really pry that out of the client, because sometimes they're not going to tell you on the first pass, it may take some probing to really get it out of them what they really want, man or woman, either or. That's important to know, and know that's not necessarily related to the legal strategy, yada, but it is related to the interaction you're going to have with that client and their view of how you're prosecuting this case. See, because if you pry deep, and I learned this early on, sometime a client will out and out tell you, if you pry deep enough past the initial encounter of, yeah, I just want this, and I want that, they'll tell you, all right, I want them to suffer. You understand? I want them to suffer. I want them to feel pain like I felt pain. And understand that oftentimes they're not going to say that because it's not politically correct to say. So you have to kind of get it out of them how they really, really feel. Because if that's their position, then you have to understand that's what you're dealing with. And understand this is not unusual. So it's not a judgment. It's not unusual for a person who feels particularly that a case, particularly when a case comes into court litigation, that if they feel that they were dealt wrongly or unjustly or poorly in any part of the relationship they're having with this person that they're in court with now, they may feel they want retribution. And see, in criminal justice, we recognize that. We recognize that as one of the theories of punishment. We want retribution, eye for an eye. But see, in family court, because it's supposed to be this model of we're just trying to work it out, best interest of the kids, a lot of people are reluctant to tell their true feelings that, no, I want this son of a gun to feel pain. You know, we were married for such and such amount of time, and this person did this and they did that, and then they cheated, and then I want them to feel pain. I want retribution. And that's not really politically correct to say in court, particularly in family court. I want retribution. I want them to suffer. And if you're dealing with that energy, you have to know how to navigate that and deconstruct that and inform your client that your job is not to inflict pain on the other person. That's not what your job is. Now, if they can quantify exactly what they want, do they want the children? Do they want the house? Do they want the car? Okay. But if you're dealing with a person who wants pain, a lot of times what they want is something that's unrealistic in terms of what you can legally produce. And that's why they're looking at you with the side eye. They want their partner to walk out of court a broken person, a broken human being, destroyed, head down, sniffling, tears rolling down their face. And if that's not something that you're willing to partake in and be a part of, you have to manage that and manage the expectation. And again, this is not being judgmental, because a lot of times when a person feels hurt, injured, or ill-treated, you know, retribution is not necessarily a foreign emotion to the human kind. But in family court, you have to be able to manage that, put things in perspective, get on the same page with your client, and then move forward from there. All right. And on the flip side, this could be a totally different video. On the flip side, if you are representing someone and on the other side, right, you have somebody who on the surface it looks like they just there for child support or custody or visitation, but they have the same feelings. They have that feeling, and maybe your client doesn't. You have to be able to recognize that, no, this is a little bit deeper than just child support. This is vengeance, man. This person wants to hurt my client. And you have to be able to peep that and strategically flush it out, expose it if possible, and then address that issue and let it be known, hey, this is not what's going to go down here. We not here for mutually assured destruction or for the annihilation of my client. We're here for a fair, equitable remedy of this case, period. So the vengeance, you can leave that for another day outside of this situation. The destruction of my client, head bowed low, tears flowing down their face. No, that's not how this is going to go. So let's manage your expectations as well. So oftentimes it can be with your client or on the other side. Anyway, NTB, man, we talk some more. One.